reviled for some people, but I just look through it and I always think they're quite beautiful. For example, he goes, number 6, trust and respect each other, adding, especially in front of others, including your children. If you do not respect your spouse in front of other people, why should those people respect your spouse? Now, I've been to situations, for example, Ruth, where I've seen guys just completely disrespect their partners by, for example, talking right over them.
Yeah.
A lot.
I know. I'm trying to do that to you. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I know I'd normally do that to Julia in our meetings, but I couldn't quite get it out for you. Yes, and I totally agree. And I mean, haters are going to hate. I think I've said that on the show before. But those 6 tips are, he was trying his best. There's nothing wrong there. People are looking for things to pour hate on him. I'd like to add a slightly humorous one, and that is that you absolutely have to know how to make the tea or coffee the way that they want it, because that is a disaster.
Yeah.
If it's too strong, or you've squeezed the tea bag, or there's too much milk,
My partner will love anyone who brings coffee in the morning, but it needs to be done correctly.
That's why I love her.
That is just really weird. It seems like you've looked into our relationship, Ruth. The tea is a big thing. Milking first.
Guru.
Amazing. Yeah. I just want to touch on this before we leave this wonderful panel. We can't really talk about International Women's Day without mentioning the hashtag #MeToo movement. It's a year and a half since that created a sensation on Twitter. It was actress Alyssa Milano who started the hashtag when commenting on sexual harassment in the entertainment industry. So, around the panel, can the two of you tell me how the hashtag #MeToo movement affected you personally, Julia?
Definitely the women in my life and the friends around my life. It gave a platform and really to get to talk with each other and for people not to feel shame. Like, there were lots of people who came out because the Me Too movement talks specifically about sexual harassment within the film industry. It actually happens in our workplaces, down the street, as a woman, whether you feel safe to walk home, whether you're out at a bar or whether you're out late in the office, that it empowered women to know that we're not alone in this, and to come out and speak more and find community. And I think that's felt still today and still ongoing, and I think that's been the importance of the Me Too movement.
Ruth?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a staunch victim advocate, survivor advocate, and yes, it's given a safe place, and I think it's expedited a conversation that had to happen and was starting to happen, but it's certainly assisted with people feeling safer and supported than they were before. I just look forward to a place where we just don't have to have these conversations anymore.
Right. So on this day, Friday, International Women's Day, March the 8th, what is your greatest dream or vision for women in the future, Julia?
That we don't need a day, because every day is Women's Day and it shouldn't be exceptional or anything that we can do and fulfil our potential as we see fit.
Did you copy me?
Be original, Ruth.
You've been looking at each other's notes. What about you, Ruth?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't understand why we're still having this conversation after all that good work that those ladies did in the suffrage movement. So let's move forward so we don't need to make this a thing, and it's not a thing anymore.
Wonderful thoughts on the panel. Andy says, my favourite female undeserved unsung hero, Tuara Santana, actress, burlesque dancer, major struggles in life, became an icon. We had Ruth Money and Julia Whaiputi on International Women's Day. You were both wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us.
Kia ora, ngā
Kia ora.
mana wahine.
Whakarongo mai koe ki te reo irirangi o Aotearoa. This is Checkpoint on RNZ National. I'm Lisa Owen. Tonight, 3 people are dead and 5 more injured after a horror crash in Canterbury. Our reporter is at the scene. Claims New Zealand Golf had a genuine Korowai to use at winners' ceremonies, but it was demanded back amid allegations it was damaged and disrespected. Police are searching Auckland wreckers' yards for the car of missing man Denver Chance. 12 days and no word. His family and volunteers are literally searching for clues. How can you help? A jury hears an alleged sexual assault victim asked for almost $750,000 in exchange for his silence. And we are all abuzz about 1 million wasps.
RNZ News at 5. Kia ora, ko Susana Leata with DNA. The Defence Force says the conduct of one soldier fell below its standards while on patrol in Afghanistan in 2004. The military is responding to allegations made by The Valley documentary, which was broadcast in 2017. It accused SAS forces of committing offences, including aggressive interaction with villagers, mistreating dead bodies and damaging property, as well as unreasonably detaining and mistreating civilians. A review by Defence Legal Services has cleared the military of some of those claims. However, on the allegation of civilian mistreatment, the review found the conduct of one unnamed soldier fell below military standards. The Defence Force says the allegations did not reach a threshold to proceed with a criminal prosecution. It says on Monday, the Chief of Defence, Kevin Short, ordered a review of military training, as well as developing a specific policy related to civilian casualties. The jury in the trial of a prominent New Zealander has heard a recording in which his alleged sex victim asked for $700,000 in exchange for his silence. The high-profile businessman, who has name suppression, is on trial in the Auckland District Court, accused of indecently assaulting two men and trying to bribe one of them through his associates. Today, the jury was told one of the complainants was flown to the Gold Coast to meet the businessman's associates, who asked him to retract his police statement. The man said he pretended he wanted $700,000, but told the court today he was just trying to shut the meeting down. His voice has been altered to protect his identity.
I wanted to see what they would do, so I suggested that they would arrange $700,000 for me, and I wanted to see how they would react from that, and if that would be enough of an incentive for them to still want me to go back to New Zealand.
The complainant said the sum was an outrageous amount and denied accusations that he invented the assault to get a payout. Shockingly hot and sweltering is how temperatures inside Nelson Airport's brand new terminal have been described this summer. Staff and passengers have told RNZ they were surprised to find it felt hotter inside the terminal than outside and have asked why it was built without air conditioning. Joanna Mackenzie reports.
The first phase of Nelson Airport's new terminal opened last October. It's been designed with a natural ventilation system, so the building is as environmentally friendly as possible. But ETU Union's Nelson organiser Korowai says conditions this summer were really tough for workers as temperatures reached 30 degrees inside the building. The head of the airport, Robert Evans, says they were caught out by this summer's heatwave. But he says when the building is finished and fully operational later this year, he's confident the terminal won't overheat again. Ko Joanna Mackenzie aho.
The family of missing man, Denver Chance, say they're trying to comb every possible route he could have taken if he was travelling from Auckland to the Bay of Plenty. Mr Chance, who is 43 years old, has been missing since February the 24th, and his family say he usually stays in touch. The police initially thought his car had been spotted in Waihi, but now say they can't be sure. He may also have been near Karaka in rural southern Auckland and near the Hunua Ranges. His mother, Paula McGregor, says his family, friends and their helpers have been travelling potential routes and looking in bushes and over banks. She hopes members of the public will look out for anything unusual and scan any CCTV footage they may have. More strike action by junior doctors could be on the way after they failed to reach agreement with hospitals in their long-running pay talks. DHB say the association cut short mediation talks yesterday. Members of the Resident Doctors Association and DHBs also met for 2 days last week and one the week before. A senior advocate with the association, David Munro, says its proposals over rosters and training arrangements were flatly denied.
It was basically trying to put lipstick on a pig because at the end of the day, they were saying, we'll go through this review process, but at the end of it, we'll do what we want.
David Munro says it will now ballot members on further strike action in the coming weeks. Emergency services remain at the scene of a fatal car crash which claimed the lives of 3 people near Tekapo this morning. 5 people were also injured in the smash involving a car and a ute on Braemar Road in the Mackenzie district shortly before 11 o'clock. The gravel road, which runs off the back of the Tekapo military camp towards Braemar Station on the shores of Lake Pukaki, remains closed. The Mayor of Mackenzie District says it's one of the worst fatal car crashes in the district for a long time. A landslip is blocking part of Hutt Road in Wellington, adding to congestion during rush hour. The Wellington City Council says the slip happened in the past hour between the Onslow Road intersection and the Ngoranga Gorge. Hutt Road is down to 1 lane heading north. The council says it is one of the many slips due to the heavy rain in the Wellington region today. It's coming up to 6 minutes past 5. The first day of the second cricket test between New Zealand and Bangladesh has been a washout after steady rain soaked the Basin Reserve in Wellington. Play was officially abandoned after a brief pitch inspection at 3 p.m. Play is scheduled to resume at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. The Black Caps won the first test in Hamilton by an innings and 52 runs. The Highlanders defence coach Glenn Delaney says the result of tonight's Super Rugby game against the Hurricanes in Wellington won't define the season prospects for either side. The Hurricanes and the Highlanders both have 2 wins and a loss. The Highlanders are about to start a string of 3 local derbies in a row, and Delaney says those matches bring the best out of both sides.
We've had a good conversation about making sure that we don't leave any questions unanswered. Everything goes on the card table on Friday night. All the energy, all the effort, all the accuracy and the execution's put into a performance that we're proud of. Yeah, we're going to know a lot about our guys, and we know that selections have been varied across the New Zealand teams, but I would suggest things are going to get pretty serious pretty quick Friday.
Glenn Delaney. The men's Black Sticks are aiming for their first win of hockey's new Pro League when they host Spain on Auckland's North Shore tonight. The match follows the New Zealand women's team's clash with the USA, which has just got underway. And Chelsea have continued their resurgence under coach Maurizio Sarri by pushing 1 foot in the quarterfinals of football's Europa League with a 3-0 win over Dynamo Kiev in Stamford Bridge. Arsenal lost 3-1 to French club Stade Rennes in their first league match. That's the news.
Tonight on Nights, Country Life travels to Masterton for the Golden Shears, the Wimbledon of shearing competitions, except they eat power fritters rather than strawberries with cream. Holly Arrowsmith is this week's Friday Night Live act, and Massey University chemist Catherine Whitby introduces this week's element, titanium. So of course we have a sonic tonic dedicated to strength. On Nights with me, Brian Crump, after the news at 7 on RNZ National.
Now the short forecast from Met Service to midnight tomorrow. Northland to Waitomo, including Coromandel Peninsula, Bay of Plenty, Gisborne, Hawke's Bay and the High Country. Rain with heavy falls, easing to a few showers this evening or tomorrow morning. Thunderstorms with localised downpours possible about Eastern Bay of Plenty and Northern Gisborne today. Further thunderstorms possible about Northland, Bay of Plenty and Taupo tomorrow afternoon and evening. Taranaki to Wellington, including Wairarapa and Marlborough. Periods of rain with heavy falls, gradually easing to a few showers tomorrow. Nelson and Bulla, scattered rain. Westland, fine weather. Canterbury, cloudy periods with occasional rain north of Ashburton. Fiordland, Otago and Southland, fine today. A few showers about Fiordland tomorrow. Then scattered rain spreading north from the afternoon. Chatham Islands, occasional drizzle. It's coming up to 8 minutes past 5. You're with RNZ National.
This is Checkpoint and I'm Lisa Owen. I've never seen anything like it. One of the first people to arrive at a head-on crash in Canterbury that killed 3 people and injured 5 has described the gut-wrenching scene at the accident site. The smash happened shortly before 11 o'clock today on Braemar Road near Tekapo. Hamish McKenzie from Braemar Station arrived at the scene shortly afterwards and describes what he saw.
Number of emergency crew with fire brigade ambulances and a logging truck which I don't believe was involved in the crash, a rental car which is a small van sort of a thing, which I believe to be tourists, and a double cab truck of some sort which belongs to the logging crew which are working up at Mount Cook Station. So yeah, it was the tourists and one of the logging trucks that was logging crew trucks, not a logging truck, that was involved in the crash.
Hamish McKenzie told our producer Bridget Burke the weather was fine, although the road itself can be challenging.
Braemar Road's a windy gravel road, which is it has its challenges, and it's where the crash was right on the brow of a hill, and coming from either side of it, you can't see anyone coming the other way. So, essential sort of part of the road where you've just got to keep left and take care. But it's an unfortunate thing that's happened. It's pretty gut wrenching seeing that sort of thing. You know it can happen, and it's you're always aware of it. But unfortunately, probably some of the tourists we're getting more of nowadays they're not that capable of. They're not that aware of the dangers on those sorts of roads, which is unfortunate.
Our reporter Logan Church is at the scene of the crash.
Hi Lisa, yes, we're about 20 minutes south of Tekapo on Braemar Road at the site of an absolutely terrible crash. This was called in at 10:55 this morning with reports of a two-vehicle collision, and the results of that, well, we're standing right in front of. We've got a people mover here and what looks to be a ute in absolutely terrible condition. The people mover is absolutely smashed up. The bonnet is almost completely gone. The front windscreen shattered. We can see we can see airbags out, and actually on the far airbag you can actually see blood. Certainly not a pretty sight. And we can see valuables as well left inside. And just to give you an idea as to who was actually involved with this crash, and this people mover here, 5 people. 3 have sadly passed away as a result of this crash, 2 others in hospital. The ute over there, we understand there to be 2 passengers also in hospital. An absolutely terrible situation just south of Tekapo. But just to give you an idea of the size of the crash, we're on Braemar Road, which is an unsealed road. It's very gravelly, it's very slaty, it's slippery. Just driving here before, we had to be extremely careful. There are a lot of blind corners and a lot of hills which you can't actually see over. Now, the Serious Crash Unit is here investigating exactly what's happened. It's too early to say what's happened, of course, and the police cannot say if tourists were involved or not. But as you can see here, Lisa, an absolutely terrible situation for obviously the people involved, but also the entire community who feel crashes like these incredibly keenly.
And that's Logan Church there reporting from the scene of that crash. That item will be on our website and Facebook page if you want to look at the pictures. In the wake of complaints about a faux fur cape being passed off as a genuine Korowai by New Zealand Golf, Checkpoint can reveal the organisation was actually loaned a genuine Korowai to be used at winners' ceremonies, but it's claimed the toanga was demanded back after it was disrespected and mistreated. The woven feather Korowai was supposed to be entrusted to New Zealand Golf indefinitely. But after it was seen folded and damaged in the corner of the New Zealand Golf office, Vic Pirihi, the man who brokered the loan, demanded it be returned to its anonymous donor. But he says before that could happen, it had to be professionally restored to what Mr Pirihi says was a magnificent Korowai beyond words.
Oh, it's hard to describe. It's just magnificent. You know, it was shiny, pristine condition. Fantastic.
Thing of beauty?
Yeah, really. Really.
And was it in mint condition when you handed it over?
Perfect. Honestly, it was just out of this world. I've never seen anything like it.
And the colour, the texture?
Dark brown, yeah, it looked oily, you know, it's hard to explain. It was very moving.
And covered in feathers?
Yep.
Or?
Yeah. Dark brown, light brown, orangey tinges through it. Just, God, I don't know how they did it, but it was great.
And when you first saw it, what did you think of it?
I couldn't believe it. I thought, gee, you just don't give these things away. I mean, you didn't give it away. They loaned it to us, which we loaned on to New Zealand Golf for a specific purpose.
Right, so you thought it was a precious thing?
Oh, yeah, very much.
So how did you come up with the idea to gift it on loan to New Zealand Golf?
It wasn't my idea. It was the CEO at the time, Larry Graham. He was a real good fella. He rang me and said, we can get hold of one of these, because I've got an idea where we'd like to present it to the winner and have photos taken with a Korowai on. I said, yeah, well, let me dig around. So I dug around and come up with it.
So did he want to make it a thing, a grand occasion?
Yeah, and he did. He did.
How so?
The presentation was, you just couldn't describe it. So I think it was 2006 up at Gulf Harbour. And we were hoping Michael Campbell would win it. But he got beaten, and this Aussie bloke won it, but that's fine. And he took it away, but it was just a special day.
So where is that Korowai now?
Back with the owner.
Back with the owner?
Mm.
And why is that?
Because they only loaned it to me.
How did the Korowai come to be returned to the owner? Was there a problem?
Oh, God, you didn't say that again. Judge Brown and I went to a meeting over at New Zealand Golf with Murphy. And
this is Dean Murphy, who was the boss?
Yeah. At that meeting, going in, I noticed that the frame on the wall didn't have the Korowai in it. And we saw it over on the table, folded up into squares, which is the worst thing that can happen to them, because it ruins the feathers.
So just to be clear, this Korowai, this beautiful item that you had got for them on loan, it was what?
Just folded in squares, yeah. And that's why it lost its lustre, I think.
Well, why wasn't it in the glass cabinet?
Good question. Ask New Zealand Golf. Probably too lazy to put it up.
So what did you think when you saw it sitting there folded up?
After that meeting, we went back to Mick's place, and it was decided we'd send an email requesting it back because of the lack of respect shown it.
So you specifically wanted it back?
Yep.
Because it had been treated badly?
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly right. But the New Zealand Open was coming up later on in the year. I said, rather than ruin that, you can use it for that one, then I'll come and get it back.
So they used it for that?
Yep.
And then you go to get it back, and what happens?
Well, we had a meeting with Murphy at Chamberlain Park with a fellow called Adrian Farnsworth, who was the lessee then. We were discussing different things about junior golf, and I asked about the Korowai. And he said, oh, look, I'm sorry, it's down in Christchurch in our bin.
What do you mean by a bin?
What do you call them? Containers.
A container, okay, freight container.
Coming back. Yeah, freight container. It's coming back to Auckland. It'll be back here in January. So that's fine. So I'll ring you again in January, which I did. It still hadn't, by January the 9th, it wasn't there. So when I asked again, he said, oh, the bloke that won it took it back to Australia to have some photos taken with it. Well, that was the end for me. I couldn't believe it. So
what couldn't you believe about that?
Well, how would you get it out of the country? How would MAF let it out? I don't know.
And so what arrangements had been made with New Zealand Golf about where this Korowai should be kept and whether it should be allowed out of the country? Once again, good question. But Larry Graham was explicit. He had this frame put on the wall and it was hung up beautifully. They took it away to the Open, used it, and it went back up again. It looked great. So it was just to be used for the ceremony, the winner's ceremony?
Yeah, that's all.
Was it your understanding that the Korowai should not leave the country?
Of course, yeah.
Why are you so firm on that?
Well, why should it? We didn't give it to take it out of the country. We gave it to New Zealand Golf to dress up the winner and then put it back in place.
So they were supposed to be, well, the guardians, the kaitiaki?
Yeah.
How did they do their job, in your view?
They didn't. They didn't. It was just a never... on and on. I was chasing shadows. And I've diaried everything on the way through.
We should tell people you've got your 2012 diary here. You've kept you've kept explicit notes on this. So the Korowai, it goes out of the country and you're shocked to hear it's over in Australia.
Yep.
And what happened to it over in Australia?
Well, they must have had some photos taken with it, I presume. That was Murphy's understanding, and sent it back.
What kind of condition was it when you saw it next?
It wasn't very good because I contacted a woman at Unitec, Judy Hoaya, and I took her over to have a look at it, and she said, "Oh no, this needs needs restoring." So we
had they done anything to try and fix it?
When I went in there the last time to pick it up, it was laying on a table with a couple of phone books sitting on top of it.
For what purpose?
Trying to flatten the feathers out. So I uplifted it, took it over to Judy, and she fixed it.
What did you make of that, to see it treated like that?
I was disgusted. Disgusted. It's just total disrespect.
So to be clear,
Yep.
the reason you took it back off New Zealand Golf
Yep.
was because it was so poorly treated.
Yep.
And they would still have it now to use at ceremonies if they'd shown it more respect?
Of course. Of course. Yeah, it would still be there. But the judge was adamant. And we rang Korowai, who was our patron, and he said, oh no, we can't have that. Let's get it out of there.
Do you reckon anyone would lend New Zealand Golf a genuine Korowai now?
I would doubt it.
Would you?
No, not at all.
So what do you make of the fact that, well, New Zealand Golf had the genuine item, a beautiful Korowai by your description. They no longer have it because they treated it badly, you say. They're using a cloak made of faux fur that's been sourced from China with rooster and turkey feathers. What do you think of that?
It's a joke. I can't believe it. Surely they wouldn't stoop that low.
And the Murphy that Vic Pirahi was referring to in that interview, of course, is Dean Murphy. Now, he's the CEO of New Zealand Golf. In the past few minutes, Mr Murphy has emailed to say he was aware that the Ngāki Tamariki Trust had generously loaned a Korowai, but it is his understanding it was returned on request some 7 or 8 years ago. It is 21 after 5 and you're with Checkpoint on RNZ National. We'd love to hear from you. You can text in on 2101, tweet us at Checkpoint RNZ or email checkpoint@rnz.co.nz. Let us know what you think about the genuine Korowai that New Zealand Golf apparently had and how it came to be taken off them. The police are checking car wreckers in the Auckland region in a bid to locate a bright red Nissan Skyline belonging to the missing man Denver Chance. The last confirmed sighting of the vehicle is 3:52 p.m. on State Highway 1 under the Penrose Overbridge on Sunday the 24th of February. A red Nissan Skyline was also snapped on CCTV in Waihi later that evening, but the police have now discovered that there were 2 almost identical vehicles travelling along the motorway within seconds of each other. But the quality of the footage means it's not possible to read the licence plate on the Waihi vehicle. So Detective Senior Sergeant Megan Goldie can't say if it's Denver Chance's Nissan or not.
It is possible that he still has gone to Waihi because we know from his friends and some of his searches on Trade Me that he was looking at property in the Waikino and Waihi areas. So these are still areas of interest to us because he was very keen on buying a property down that way.
So it could be him, and it could be his car.
Yes, absolutely. It could be him and it could be the car, but we can't conclusively say.
So you're keeping an open mind. If we can clear up something around the car. So the sighting in Drury, can you categorically say that the person behind the wheel is Denver Chance?
No, we can't because you're unable to see who's driving that vehicle, and again, because the quality of the CCTV is not clear enough for us to see inside.
What can you tell us about who is in the car?
Well, all we can say is that he was last seen leaving the Mairangi Bay address at about 3:30 on Sunday the afternoon, and he walked up his driveway as if he was getting into his car, but we don't have any confirmed sightings of him in that car. We have the car on the motorway and heading for the motorway, but no actual footage anywhere. We can conclusively confirm that he is in that car. It's an assumption that he's driving that car.
Right, so even from the point he leaves his place in Mairangi Bay, nobody saw him get in the car and leave in that vehicle?
That's correct.
So conceivably, it may not be him behind the wheel?
That's a slight possibility.
Why do you only say slight, Detective?
Because we believe from what he said to his flatmate that he was just popping out and that no one else drives his vehicle. He has the keys in his room. It's a slight possibility that someone else met him up on the roadside, for example, and drove off in his car. But from all the information we have, it's him driving his car, but we have no confirmed footage to prove that.
Beyond Waihi, have there been any other sightings of the vehicle?
No, there hasn't, no.
You mentioned there that he was interested in property in that area, and you know that because of his computer searches. What else does that computer tell you?
Yeah, so we are working our way through the information on the computer, including any social media applications that he has.
So that's a laptop, is it?
It's a MacBook, yes.
Are you aware of any other devices he may have owned that are still outstanding?
No, he did have some other like cameras and GoPros and things which we have, and we are searching through those as well.
Okay, let's talk about the cell phone for a minute. There is some activity on the cell phone on the Sunday when he was last seen. So what is it? It's been described as as data. So was it a phone call or was it just a location ping? What is it?
Yeah, it's basically a location ping or polling on a cell tower, and that's in the Karaka area.
What cell tower is that from?
So it's a cell tower that's west of the southern motorway in the Karaka area.
His mother has told us that she spoke to him at about 2:30 on Sunday. Did he speak to anyone else on his cell phone after that?
No, he hasn't spoken to anyone after that.
Any text messages?
No, he's not a big texter.
So no communication on his cell phone after he spoke to his mum at 2:30?
That's correct.
Whereabouts is the cell phone?
We would love to know the answer to that.
And the last location you have, has the battery died or what is the situation?
Yeah, it's unknown, but the last location we have is that polling at the Karaka cell tower to the west of the motorway. So we're still seeking anyone who has information on where he might be or who has spoken with him in the last couple of months and hasn't already spoken to us to come forward and contact us.
What is that Irwin Road area like?
It is quite a rural area. It's not a major through road, so it's mainly lifestyle blocks, I guess you'd call it.
Have you done any aerial searches just in case his car has run off the road?
Yes, we've had our Eagle helicopter up a couple of times in that area, trying to confirm that he hasn't just fallen off the road.
And zero sign?
No sign of that car at all in that area.
Okay, so you see the car on the CCTV footage heading south and it's near Drury on the Sunday afternoon. You get a cell phone ping at between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. What is your working scenario here?
Well, we're just working our way through countless hours of CCTV footage, which is very time-consuming and labour-intensive, but we're trying to track the movements of that car and to get confirmation that we have the right car with a registration plate if possible. So that's sort of what we're concentrating on.
But if his car is heading south and his phone sets off a signal a number of hours later, is there any evidence to suggest that he turned around and headed back to Auckland, or do you think he was separated from his cell phone?
Yeah, look, it's highly possible that he did turn around and come back. We just really need to establish where he's been or where his phone has been in those hours in between the sighting on the motorway and then the pinging in the Karaka area on the cell tower.
A car is quite a big thing to just disappear.
Yes, it is.
So what do you make of that?
Well, we're just doing our best to try and track the movements of that car, and hopefully that'll narrow down the area where it might be.
Is there something to suggest that it has been hidden or destroyed?
Well, we're considering those possibilities, but we really don't know what's happened to that vehicle. It could be just parked in a garage somewhere.
So have you been around wreckers' yards, or what have you done in that respect?
Yes, we're making inquiries in those areas, but it's important that as an investigation team we don't speculate. We just try and keep our options open and follow all avenues of investigation.
Yeah, so how far afield have you looked in terms of the wreckers' yards?
We've been concentrating mainly in the Auckland area at this stage, but we will consider going wider.
If you have any information, the police would like to hear from you. You can call this special number 0800 FIND DC, 0800 FIND DC, or you can call Crime Stoppers, which is an anonymous line, on 0800 555 111, 0800 555 111 for the anonymous Crime Stoppers number. And after 6, we'll hear from Denver Chance's mother. A Rotorua exterminator is battling through the biggest job of his career as he destroys a giant German wasp nest, estimated to hold up to, wait for it, 1 million wasps. The nest was discovered on Monday attached to a panga tree in an area of native bush at Haumurana. Our Waikato Bay of Plenty reporter Andrew McRae bravely went to have a look.
To get to the nest, we had to cross private land before entering the bush. I went with Chris Brunel from Bay Pest Services, which has the mammoth job of destroying it.
I'm amazed that it's taken this long to see it because, mind you, you'd have to be looking up and you'd have to be paying attention. And they spotted it and reported it to the guy who's in charge of the voluntary group that does all this restoration projects around these areas.
The nest is about 3 metres up in a panga tree, which is perched on the side of a steep bank. At 2 metres tall, with a circumference of about 2 metres, it's estimated to weigh between 100 and 150 kilos.
Inside, there's a whole lot of these things, hundreds of them, all stacked on top of each other.
Like a sort of a cone.
They're like a cone. They look like a honeycomb, but they're full of wasps, larvae, and once they're ready to hatch, they plug them with that wax. But some of those will hatch, but they don't survive.
But to get to that size,
yes,
in this panga tree,
yes,
which is quite tall in itself,
yep,
how long would that have taken to build?
I'd say that will take, normally wasp nests don't winter over. I'd say the queen's never left that nest, or it could be a number of queens. I could say that's 2 to 3 years to get it at that size. I've hacked a bit of the front off. It was sticking out as far as that bit of broken flax.
So another what, half a metre?
Another half a metre. So we've, as you can see, we've been at it now for some time. But it's in terms of wasp nests, it's pretty big. It's the biggest I've seen in 30 years.
Mr. Brunel says a nest that big takes on a life of its own.
They almost become an independent city, and it gets very warm in there, so they can maintain cold. They can maintain against cold temperatures. So they can get up to a million wasps, and the temperature in there can get up to the high, 80s, 90s in amongst the nest itself because it's quite deep.
While the German wasps tend to like living in big nests, this one at Haumurana is near record size.
They seem to like panga trees because they can build around them quite easily and hollow out the actual timber to get a grip of the nest, get a grip in the initial stages so it doesn't fall apart. It's very well sheltered.
Mr. Brunel says it's one of the hardest jobs his company has faced due to the size of the nest and its location.
We've had to initially dust it with an insecticide and try and kill as many as we can. And then the second time round, we tried to get into the entry points where they're getting into the nest. The third time, we cut a section off and dusted that. So really, we're up to our fourth time now. And because the weather's going to get wet, we think we'll probably finish it off on Monday, and then we will slice bits off it and dust it again, and then we'll smash it up once we're satisfied it's dead.
Because there are still some wasps there, we saw them before.
There's still some wasps in there. It's hard to gauge how many. You usually only find out when you put the saw through it.
What was it like on the first time you saw it in terms of the wasp activity?
It was very active. I mean, there were hundreds flying in and out regularly, and if you walked past and they saw you, obviously they would target you because they felt you're a threat. Now the threat factor's gone away and we can get a lot closer, as you've discovered, but you couldn't have got that close on Monday.
Mr. Brunel says the wasps still inside the nest will try and protect it right up until the end, as they're very aggressive. In the Rotorua for Checkpoint, ko Andrew McRae tēnei.
Checkpoint on RNZ National, Donald Trump's former campaign chair, Paul Manafort, will spend nearly 4 years behind bars. Labour's U-turn to allow China expert Anne-Marie Brady to speak to MPs, and the new terminal at Nelson Airport that's getting people hot under the collar, literally. We'd love your feedback. Don't forget you can text us 2101, tweet us at Checkpoint RNZ. We're on Facebook, Checkpoint, or you can send us an email, checkpoint@rnz.co.nz. But first, here's Susanna with the headlines.
The Defence Force says the conduct of one soldier fell below its standards in Afghanistan in 2004, but did not reach the threshold for criminal prosecution. The military is responding to the Valley documentary, broadcast in 2017, which accused SAS forces of aggressive interaction with villagers, mistreating dead bodies and damaging property, as well as unreasonably detaining and mistreating civilians. A Defence Legal Services review has found the conduct of one unnamed soldier fell below military standards in relation to civilian mistreatment. It says Defence Chief Kevin Short has ordered a review of military training and specific policy development in relation to civilian casualties. The jury in a trial of a well-known businessman has listened to a tape in which his alleged victim asked for $700,000 to buy his silence. The man is on trial in the Auckland District Court, accused of indecently assaulting two men and trying to bribe one of them through his associates. One complainant told the jury he was flown to the Gold Coast to meet the associates, who asked him to retract his police statement. The man said he pretended he wanted $700,000, but today told the court he was trying to shut the meeting down. The Serious Crash Unit is investigating a triple fatality on a gravel road near Lake Tekapo. The 3 people who died were in a people mover and 2 have been taken to hospital. Another 2 people from the other car, a ute, have also been taken to hospital. One of the authors of a contentious study into midwife-led care says there has been no follow-up 2 years after the report was released. The 2016 study found poorer outcomes for babies born in midwife-led care than in GP-led care, but it drew heavy criticism from the College of Midwives and Ministry of Health for being anti-midwives and having flawed methods. At the time, the ministry said it would investigate whether further research was needed, but lead researcher Ali Vernham says nothing has happened and there is a resistance to changing the maternity system. Those are the headlines. Our next news and weather update is at 6.
Thanks, Susanna. This is Checkpoint on RNZ National. I'm Lisa Owen, and in the studio with me is Nona Peltier. Nona, Apple exporter, this is Scales. They've got a new joint venture partner to drive its pet food business.
Yeah.
Apple's pet food?
Well, you know, these farmers, they're diversifying all the time, whether you're growing apples or exporting meat, and that's beef, sheep and venison. This is a company, Alliance Group is a cooperative, a farmer cooperative. They've done a deal with Scales. They've bought half into their pet food business called Meteor. So they paid $15 million for a half share. And together, the partners think they can drive a lot more value. And for Alliance, it fits with their strategy to add value to the raw materials that they already were providing to the pet food company. So yeah, interesting to see. They both expect to drive significant growth. And that's the sort of thing they're looking at. They may do other deals, who knows. Pharmaceuticals is one, for example, that they will be looking at, no doubt.
Diverse portfolio. Right, so latest construction numbers, stronger than expected. Where is that growth coming from?
Yes, a lot stronger than expected. The market wasn't expecting anything like the numbers that we saw today. So this is construction activity. This is like work in progress. It wasn't the residential sector where the growth was coming from. It was from the non-residential sector. That's commercial growth. And we've talked about that a bit. We are seeing quite strong growth. So, for example, you know, some of the forecasts were like, you know, 12% more. The result was actually 12% more than people were expecting. And the growth was 5.8% more construction activity this year than the last year in commercial activity. Residential activity was less robust, but never mind. I mean, most of the growth that we're seeing now is in the Auckland region. It accounted for 41% of total construction activity.
That's really interesting, given the recent issues with commercial construction
companies. And that's the worry that there is. It's because we've had a number of, like Arrow just recently had problems, and we've had a number of other large companies that have struggled. And I mean, Fletcher Building has said that we're not going to be doing the high-rise structures. So there is that question mark over whether this is sustainable. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, market. What else?
Interestingly, our market, the top 50 index, it ended up just 3 points, which is pretty good because at 5 o'clock, Australia was down 1%. And the Asia markets are not looking well. And also, Wall Street wasn't very strong either. And that's mostly because of this concern about trade. So, look, ending up just 3 points, that's just 2 points shy of our record. So we finished at 9,440. The Kiwis holding steady, 67.6 US. Again, still strong against the Australian at 96.4 and 51.6 pence.
Thanks, Nona. Have a brilliant weekend. Nona Peltier with your business news there. A court has heard a man allegedly assaulted by a prominent New Zealander ask for $700,000 in exchange for his silence. The high-profile businessman, who has name suppression, is on trial in the Auckland District Court, accused of indecently assaulting 2 men and then trying to bribe one to drop his police complaint. Our reporter, Annika Smith, has been following the case and filed this report.
Today the jury heard about what the Crown's dubbed the Gold Coast plot. The court heard one of the businessman's associates organise for the complainant to be flown to the Gold Coast under the guise of discussing potential business opportunities. He said he met 2 people, who can't be named, at a hotel.
They said they needed me to return to New Zealand and to have my statement removed from the police in order for these opportunities to happen.
The court heard the complainant felt vulnerable and made up excuses, saying he didn't have his passport. Part of the meeting was secretly recorded, and this was played to the jury this morning. In it, the complainant asks for $700,000. An associate asks if he'll retract his statement if the businessman, who they call Client A, puts the money in his account, and he replies immediately.
I wanted to see what they would do, so I suggested that they would arrange $700,000 for me, and I wanted to see how they would react from that, and if that would be enough of an incentive for them to still want me to go back to New Zealand.
The man said one of the associates said it would be cheaper to hire a hitman.
When mentioned that it was cheaper to hire a hitman, I guess it kind of put things a bit more into perspective of the weight behind everything and behind their intentions on being there.
After listening to the recording, the complainant told the court he felt uneasy throughout the meeting. He said he made the outrageous request to shut the meeting down, thinking it would put the businessman off. The man later reported the meeting to the police officer investigating his complaint in New Zealand. The businessman is on trial with 2 other men who were accused of trying to bribe the man on his behalf. They have each vehemently denied the charges, and this afternoon the businessman's lawyer, David Jones QC, accused the complainant of lying about being assaulted. He picked through the details of the man's story, telling him it simply wasn't true.
I'm going to suggest that he never got into bed with you at all. What do you say about that?
I would say that's a lie.
And at all times he was standing next to the bed and never got onto it. What do you say about that?
That's a lie.
And that he never touched or tried to touch your penis at all. What do you say about that?
I would say that's a lie as well.
On Tuesday, Mr. Jones said his client's wealth had made him a target for people who wanted money. He went on to accuse both the complainants of fabricating their stories after falling out with the businessman. All 3 defendants lost their bids for continued name suppression at the start of the trial, but their identities remain a secret on appeal. At the Auckland District Court, for Checkpoint, this is Annika Smith.
Donald Trump's former campaign chair has been sentenced to just under 4 years in prison for bank and tax fraud and has been ordered to pay $25 million back to the US government. 69-year-old Paul Manafort, who spent years as a Republican political consultant, was convicted last year of hiding millions of dollars he had earned while working for pro-Russian politicians in Ukraine. The charges came out of the Mueller probe into Russia's role in the 2016 presidential election. The BBC's Peter Bowles has the details.
He was once a high-flying businessman known for his dapper appearance and lavish lifestyle. Paul Manafort's crimes were uncovered during the investigation into Russia's role in the 2016 US election, led by the special counsel Robert Mueller. But the charges related to the money he was paid working for politicians in Ukraine with connections to Moscow. Prosecutors said Manafort hid more than $55 million from the US tax authorities. Wearing a green prison jumpsuit and seated in a wheelchair, he addressed the court and asked the judge for compassion. He said the last 2 years had been the most difficult of his life. To say I am humiliated and shamed would be a gross understatement. The judge said he was surprised that Manafort did not express regret for engaging in wrongful conduct. You should have remorse for that. Manafort could have been jailed for up to 25 years, but the judge said he thought that would be excessive. Other than these very serious crimes, he said Manafort had lived an otherwise blameless life. The crimes are not related to Donald Trump's 2016 election campaign.
I think most importantly what you saw today is the same thing that we had said from day one. There is absolutely no evidence that Paul Manafort was involved with any collusion with any government official from Russia.
Paul Manafort will be back in court next week to face sentencing in another case related to illegal lobbying. It could bring an extra 10 years in jail.
Peter Bowes there from Washington. Labor has performed a swift backtrack on a decision to block China expert Anne-Marie Brady from speaking at Parliament. Professor Brady had asked to address MPs about foreign interference in elections as part of a select committee inquiry, but yesterday was turned down. But after outcry from the opposition, the committee's chair, Labor MP Raymond Ho, has changed his tune. Here's our political reporter Craig McCulloch.
The position seemed crystal clear on RNZ's morning report.
Labour MPs have blocked leading China politics specialist Anne-Marie Brady from speaking at Parliament about foreign interference in elections.
Raymond Ho even sent in a statement this morning. He said he was satisfied correct procedure had been followed.
The committee chair, Raymond Ho, says public submissions closed last September and Dr Brady's approach came just too late.
Too late was the catch cry. The deadline had passed. Anne-Marie Brady could not make a late submission. Never mind that the committee wasn't tasked with explicitly looking at foreign interference until October, the month after submissions had closed. National was outraged. Its MP Nick Smith went to the media, and by early afternoon,
Labour MPs have backtracked on their decision to block China expert Anne-Marie Brady.
A new statement arrived from Raymond Ho and a new message. He now welcomes new submissions. He says yesterday's decision was purely procedural. The committee will move to reopen feedback from the public and from Anne-Marie Brady. Mr Ho says he'd like to do so as soon as possible. Nick Smith says that's good news, and he's taking the credit.
The only reason that Labor has had a change of heart is that National has highlighted the issue. This is a significant change in position from Labor MPs, but one that National welcomes.
Mr Ho wouldn't give interviews today, only written statements, and Professor Brady didn't respond to emails. But watching from afar was political fixture Peter Dunn. The former Cabinet Minister suspects Labour was worried Professor Brady might say something which upset China.
Either the government members of the Select Committee acting by themselves, which I think is unlikely, more likely the government and instructed its members that it would be rather awkward at this tense time in our relations with China to have her appear and make critical comments. And I suspect that they were just a bit ham-fisted in their dealings with it because it sort of backfired on them a bit.
Mr Dunn is pleased Professor Brady will be allowed to speak as one of the country's foremost China watchers. But he says it's somewhat ironic that National is the one which demanded it.
The National Party a week ago was lambasting the government for a deteriorating relationship with China. Now it seems to have forgotten that because there's a chance of making short-term political capital by embarrassing the Select Committee over its actions and inviting Professor Brady to speak. But hey, that's the stuff of politics.
From Parliament for Checkpoint, Craig McCulloch.
It is about 12 minutes away from 6. I'm Lisa Owen and you're with Checkpoint on RNZ National. We're keen for your feedback. You can text in on 2101 or tweet us at checkpointrnz, or you can send an email, checkpoint@rnz.co.nz. Wellington is mopping up after a deluge this morning caused slips, surface flooding and water to surge into basements in buildings across the CBD. The council fielded dozens of flooding-related calls from 8:30 this morning. The Higher Taste restaurant in the Old Bank Arcade was flooded for the third time since last July, when the damage was so bad it had to close for 8 weeks, costing the business thousands of dollars. Our reporter Laura Dooney and camerawoman Rebecca Parsons-King went to talk to Yagdish Prasad, who runs the restaurant, and said it was sheer panic today.
I was walking out of my house to get into the vehicle, and between my house and my vehicle, which was about 5 meters, I was soaking. So you can understand how bad the rain was. And immediately the thought in my mind was that hey, what's happening in the restaurant? And the next thing is I get a phone call saying we got a flooding. And they said, once again, we've been flooded. So my first question was, where is the water coming from? Because usually the water comes down the step from the junction of Hunter Street and Custom House Quay. And this time around, it was nothing like that. The water was coming from Hunter Street, from the walls. It seems like it was seeping through the footpath and down into the restaurant. It was sheer panic because they were halfway into the cooking when one of the chefs walked out, and the next thing he sees is a pond of water. So obviously you can understand, and because they have been through this on a number of occasions and they know the consequences of it, it was a sheer panic once again. Last year in July, that's when the flooding came through the front door, where the front window, and the window was smashed and the water came through there. And at that stage, it went right throughout the restaurant. So this time we were lucky that it's only in one half. That time it went right throughout the restaurant. As you can see, the carpet has been removed. So now it's a question of getting the floor dried once again. The council had already spent a lot of money trying to find a solution. Last year, around September, we were told that the council is going to stop the entranceway from Hunter Street into the restaurant. They were going to barricade that with the concrete wall, and the entranceway will be changed. It was an expensive exercise, but disappointingly, 2 weeks ago, we were informed that they have dropped that idea, and now they're not going to go ahead with it.
So what's the new plan?
Well, really, we don't have much choice. It's more to do with the landlord and the city council. We are just renting this space.
Is it costing the business a lot of money?
Obviously, yes. When we do have insurance cover there, the council really needs to take some active action. Unfortunately, at this stage, they are saying that it comes down to money. But while they are saving money, we are the ones who are losing.
Wellington Water spokesperson Alex Van Parsons says the challenge with that particular property is that it's below ground level, and when it pours down, water flows towards the lowest point. He says there have been conversations with the property manager and the building owner about closing off one entrance into the street, but he's not sure where things are at. The Solomon Islands Prime Minister is defending his reaction to a devastating oil spill, pinning the blame on the companies involved. It's a month since the Solomon trader ran aground in a World Heritage area around the island of Rennell, unleashing at least 100 tonnes of oil into the marine reserve. Now, Rick Ho is threatening to pull the licences of the companies involved. Jamie Tahana reports.
32 days after the Solomon trader first got wedged on the reef, and 21 days after it started leaking oil, Rick Ho has finally fronted the media. The government had acted from day one, he insisted, sending disaster officials to the scene and asking for Australia's help as soon as was possible. Mr Ho said the ship's owner, Hong Kong-based King Trading, its South Korean insurer and the operator of the bauxite mine, Bintan and Apid, are responsible. He said he was infuriated by the low priority the companies had given the disaster.
Apid and BMSI are fully, vicariously liable for the accident because without mining and the charter arrangements, which both are responsible for, the ship would never have been in Brennell. The government is concerned that the overall response by the ship owners and insurers has been very slow.
A salvage operation is finally in full swing at Rennell, and Mr Ho says he's confident the spill has been contained. But 100 tonnes of oil has already leaked in one of the world's most pristine areas, one the UN said was already endangered. Mr Ho says the bay's ecological impact is devastated, much of it unlikely to recover. He says it's a disaster that should never have happened.
The government cannot and will not accept any claims by the company this accident was outside their control. The company and the ship are also very aware of the cyclone season. They would have heard the weather warnings that went out. We cannot accept this was unforeseen. Rather, we see this as constituting a very careless action by the ship's crew.
Mr Ho is currently the caretaker Prime Minister, with national elections due on the 3rd of April. And that's likely to bring the issue of mining, a long-running issue that brings vast sums of money to both villagers and politicians' pockets, to the fore in the next few weeks. At his news conference, Mr Ho said he was outraged that while the Solomon trader sat there leaking oil, ships chartered by Bintan continued to go around it to pick up bauxite, stirring up the oil. Mr Ho says restricting activity on the bay would bring significant benefits to the recovery operation.
The salvaging operations can run unabated and the risks to salvaging personnel is minimized. Reduced movement of crabs, which will enhance a faster clearance of the oil spill from the bay area. A rapid assessment is undertaken on the impact of the oil spill on the marine environment.
Mr Ho says Bintan has exported more than 64 loads of bauxite, and apart from direct employment to some Rennell locals, the country has seen no tax or royalty payments. He says the government will look at the future of the operations.
We have laws in this country, and regardless of the inadequacies in some areas, they still form the basis upon which decisions relating to the mining lease and development consent must be addressed.
In a statement this week, the ship's owner and insurer apologised to the country, saying they had deep remorse, but they added that matters of liability were still being worked out. For Checkpoint, ko Jamie Tahana aho.
Nelson Airport's new terminal has passengers hot under the collar with the flash new premises built without air conditioning. It was constructed from specially sourced wood. It has a unique roof design and is billed as environmentally friendly. But temperatures inside the building have been described as shockingly hot and sweltering this summer, with some people reporting it felt hotter inside than outside. Joanna McKenzie reports.
Nelson Airport's new terminal has been designed with a natural ventilation system without artificial air conditioning, so the building will be as environmentally friendly as possible. But as temperatures in the region soared over the summer, passengers like Selina Andresand found the heat stifling.
It was actually probably hotter than outside, to be honest, because obviously there's no air or ventilation, there's no wind. So it was probably hotter than outside. But yeah, I was pretty surprised because it's a pretty beautiful building, but with no aircon, I'd rather be outside.
Selina Andresand had a 2-hour wait in the terminal, which she describes as extremely uncomfortable. She says the large fans in the building had very little effect.
They're kind of weirdly positioned on these big posts. And there's, if you've been there, it's quite open, and then there's about 6 big posts maybe that go through the middle of the airport, and they don't really do much. I didn't feel cool from them, that's for sure.
Staff working in the terminal, who are members of Etu Union, told their delegate it's been shockingly hot and the fans just push the hot air around. Etu's Nelson organiser, Corey Wallace, says workers found it almost unbearable.
They thought the new design was meant to be one of these ergonomic type of arrangements where the heat would be transferred. It didn't seem to be operating that way. At times people felt like they were having a heat stroke. It was so hot in the Nelson airport.
Mr Wallace says the conditions were really tough for workers, especially the ones who have to wear uniforms.
They're wearing stockings, wearing shoes. In the airport industry, as in the aviation industry, presentation is quite important. So, when you're reaching those sort of extreme temperatures, it's hard to show composure, maintain your presentation when you're dripping with sweat and et cetera, et cetera. So difficult times.
Nelson Airport CEO Robert Evans acknowledges that the temperatures have been high and the heat wave took them by surprise.
I think they were into the high 20s and maybe up to 30 degrees at a certain point. So, we introduced large industrial fans around the place just to keep the airflow going. We did things like brought ice cream vans in, the Applebee ice cream van, and, just to add, make sure we're trying to keep the morale high. And, it was pretty warm at times.
Stage 1 of the new terminal opened last October, but Mr Evans says once the second stage is finished, overheating shouldn't be a problem.
I think we just need to wait and get the building completed and fully operational, and then we'll be able to see it really perform. And I think, we've just been, just slightly caught out, and we do accept that. We've been caught out with a very, very warm summer, and the building, not quite performing the way it should do.
The second stage of the building will include a cooling system above the check-in area. Robert Evans promises once that's in place in October, the building will be able to keep staff and passengers cool on those hot days that Nelson is famous for. For Checkpoint, ko Joanna Mackenzie-Aho.
We'd love to hear from you if you're a passenger or you've been through the Nelson terminal during one of those hot days, 2101, or tweet us at Checkpoint RNZ. We want to know what exactly it's like. Too hot to handle? After 6, we'll hear from the mother of missing man Denver Chance. Their family is out scouring for clues.
RNZ News at 6. Ngā mihi nui ko Susana Leata tēnei. The Defence Force says the conduct of a male soldier fell below its standards while on patrol in Afghanistan in 2004. The military is responding to allegations made by the Valley documentary, which was broadcast in 2017. Here's our Defence reporter, Jonathan Mitchell.
The documentary accused SAS forces of committing offences, including aggressive interaction with villagers, mistreating dead bodies and damaging property, as well as unreasonably detaining and mistreating civilians. A review by Defence Legal Services has cleared the military of most of the allegations. However, on an allegation of civilian mistreatment, the review found the conduct of one unnamed soldier fell below military standards. The Defence Force says the allegation did not reach a threshold to proceed with a criminal prosecution. The Chief of Defence, Kevin Short, says the soldier left the military last year. Ko Jonathan Mitchell, tēnei.
One of the authors of a contentious study into midwife-led care says there has been no follow-up 2 years after the report was released. The 2016 study found poorer outcomes for babies born in midwife-led care than under GP-supervised care. But it drew heavy criticism from the College of Midwives and Ministry of Health for being anti-midwife and having flawed methods. At the time, the ministry said it would investigate whether further research was needed. But lead researcher Ellie Wernham says nothing has happened.
We all need to sit around and say, this is what's happened, so how can we use these findings to better the outcomes that we're all gunning for, and that's a safe system for mothers and babies.
Ellie Wernham says there is a resistance to changing the maternity system. The Ministry of Health has been approached for comment. The family of missing man Denver Chance says they're trying to comb every possible route he could have taken if he travelled from Auckland to the Bay of Plenty. Mr Chance, who is 43 years old, has been missing since February the 24th, and his family say he usually stays in touch. The police had initially thought his car had been seen in Waihi, but now say they can't be sure. He may also have been near Karaka in rural southern Auckland and near the Hunua Ranges. His mother, Paula McGregor, has told Checkpoint that his family friends and their helpers have been scanning many possible routes and want members of the public to help.
Wherever they're driving, where they see any possible place where a vehicle may have gone over a bank, could they please keep their eyes peeled? Pig hunters, anybody like that, anybody that has camera footage outside their homes, if they could have a look for that particular day.
Paula McGregor. The number of confirmed measles cases in Canterbury is now 15. The Canterbury District Health Board says the highly contagious disease is circulating widely in the community and it expects the number of patients to climb in coming days. People who aren't immunised and who come within 2 metres of an infectious person stand a 90% chance of contracting the disease. DHB spokesperson Ramon Pink says people in their late teens and early 20s are at high risk, as a large number were not vaccinated as children. The National MP Nick Smith is taking credit for Labour's flip-flop over whether to let the China expert Anne-Marie Brady speak at Parliament. Professor Brady had asked to address MPs about foreign interference in elections as part of a select committee inquiry. The request was denied yesterday, with the chair, Labour MP Raymond Ho, saying the deadline for public feedback had closed. But after outcry from the opposition, Mr Ho said the committee would move to reopen submissions. Nick Smith says that's good news.
The only reason that Labor has had a change of heart is that National has highlighted the issue. This is a significant change in position from Labor MPs, but one that National welcomes.
National MP Nick Smith. Donald Trump's former campaign chairman has been sentenced to just under 4 years in prison for bank and tax fraud and has been ordered to pay $25 million back to the US government. Paul Manafort was convicted last year of hiding millions of dollars he earned as a consultant for pro-Russian politicians in Ukraine. The charges came out of the Mueller probe into Russia's role in the 2016 presidential election. Speaking outside court, his lawyer Kevin Downing repeated that Manafort had no involvement with suspected election meddling.
I think most importantly what you saw today is the same thing that we had said from day one. There is absolutely no evidence that Paul Manafort was involved with any collusion with any government official from Russia.
Kevin Downing. Mr Manafort faces sentencing on 2 conspiracy charges in a separate case in Washington next week. It's 6:05. World champion shot putter Tom Walsh has his sights set on the 23.12 metre world record and believes someone will break it in the next year or so. The Canterbury thrower is attempting to win his 10th straight title at the National Champs in Christchurch tonight. Walsh's best is 45 centimetres short of the world record set in 1990, and he says he's getting into good form.
I think I'll have some pretty good cracks at it in the next kind of year, that's for sure, and hopefully even further than that if I can stay injury-free. I'm pretty happy with how throwing is going and pretty confident that if I don't do it, someone else will do it very soon.
Tom Walsh. The Crusaders coach Scott Robertson says he's happy to have young wing Sevu Reece in his squad. The 22-year-old will make his Crusaders debut against the Chiefs tomorrow night. 5 months ago, he was fined $750 and discharged without conviction for assaulting his girlfriend last year. The Fiji-born back had a contract with Irish side Connacht last year and torn up in the wake of the court case. Robertson says Reece has been nothing but impressive since joining the Crusaders.
I've never had any concerns. That's the first thing. He's a quality young kid. He's been through that process with the incident. It was fully cleared and he's come back down here and been a great human. He's worked so hard. I don't think there's a guy that's worked harder in our group. Extremely humble and glad that we can help him be as best he can.
Scott Robertson. The Crusaders game is the second of 2 New Zealand derbies this weekend. The Hurricanes host the Highlanders in Wellington tonight, with both teams holding a 2-win and 1-loss record. That's the news.
Country Life this week is all about a premier sporting event, the Golden Shears, the serious athletic competition.
I've got a trainer from the UK that we do it all online, and I tell him where I want to peak and what I want to do, and now building into it a lot more around sprint sort of training.
And camaraderie.
This is the traditional Golden Shears. We don't come here to win anything. We just come here to bring the Ngāi Tahu power. It's cost us a lot of powers over the years to get some of these hooers in the finals. It's not easy.
Living it up Friday night at 9 and Saturday morning at 7 on RNZ National.
Now the short forecast from Met Service to midnight tomorrow. For Northland to Waitomo, including Coromandel Peninsula, Bay of Plenty, Gisborne, Hawke's Bay and the Central High Country. Rain with heavy falls, easing to a few showers this evening or tomorrow morning. Thunderstorms with localised downpours possible about Eastern Bay of Plenty and Northern Gisborne today. Further thunderstorms possible about Northland, Bay of Plenty and Taupo tomorrow afternoon and evening. Taranaki to Wellington, including Wairarapa and Marlborough. Periods of rain with heavy falls, gradually easing to a few showers tomorrow. Nelson and Buller, scattered rain. Westland, fine weather. Canterbury, cloudy periods with occasional rain north of Ashburton. For Fiordland, Otago and Southland, fine today, a few showers about Fiordland tomorrow, then scattered rain spreading north from the afternoon. At the Chatham Islands, occasional drizzle. It's 6:08. You're with RNZ National.
And you're listening to Checkpoint. I'm Lisa Owen. A head-on crash near Tekapo has killed 3 people and injured 5. Pictures from the crash site on Braemar Road show suitcases in the boot of one of the vehicles, one with a Jetstar luggage tag. Hamish McKenzie from Braemar Station was one of the first on the scene after the crash shortly before 11 o'clock and describes it as gut-wrenching. Our South Island visual journalist Logan Church is there and spoke to Anthony Callan, Timaru Police Response Manager, a short time ago.
2 vehicles, one's a 4-wheel drive and the other one is a Toyota people mover type vehicle, and they've had a head-on crash on a small brow of the road. Braemar Road is a shingle road, it's quite narrow with lots of little rises on it, and the crash has happened on one of these small rises.
Yeah, because just even looking now, it's obviously covered in gravel. It wouldn't necessarily be the safest road in the world.
Yeah, look, all roads are relatively safe if you drive to the conditions. But in this case, the road is quite narrow and it's probably not a road that's travelled that often.
Do we have any idea what happened yet, or is it a bit too early to say yet?
No, it's too early to say. The police will be doing a thorough investigation, and obviously that report will go through to the coroner and they'll make the findings as to what has happened.
And how many people in total are involved with this?
Yeah, so one of the vehicles had 5 occupants. That vehicle unfortunately has 3 deceased in it. The other 2 occupants from that vehicle were flown by emergency helicopter to Dunedin, and the other vehicle had 3 occupants. 2 of those have gone through to Timaru by ambulance, and the driver of that vehicle has also gone to Dunedin in rescue helicopter. Yeah, so the road will be closed for around about another 4 hours while they do their investigation and map the scene. From there we'll be removing all the vehicles, and then the road will be opened back up to the public. Yeah, I don't think crash is always common in specific areas all the time. The Mackenzie does have a reasonable amount of crashes on its road for the amount of vehicles that travel through it, but Braemar Road itself is a road that's not particularly used that often by people, so it's unusual to have a crash on Braemar Road. Look, we just want people to drive to the conditions. That's the police messaging for this, and if they can people watch their speed and obviously seatbelts, that's great.
Anthony Callan from the Timaru Police speaking to our reporter Logan Church. A life member of New Zealand Golf says he feels insulted and betrayed by New Zealand Golf's decision to use a faux Korowai at the New Zealand Open in Arrowtown. Neil Woodbury, former president of New Zealand Golf, has written a letter to its CEO, Dean Murphy, to express his disappointment. It comes after Checkpoint revealed earlier in the program New Zealand Golf had been loaned a genuine Korowai for use at winners' ceremonies, but it was taken back following claims it had been disrespected. Vic Pirahi from the Ngāti Tamariki Trust brokered the deal. He told Checkpoint the loaned Korowai was taken out of its glass case and was found folded and damaged in the corner of the New Zealand Golf office, so he took it back and returned it to its donor. Former New Zealand Golf president Neil Woodbury says he fondly recalls the gift of a Korowai being a symbol of the great relationship between Māori and New Zealand Golf, which was built on the successes of Phil Taturangi and Michael Campbell. Neil read his letter to Dean Murphy.
Dear Dean, during my long association with New Zealand Golf, I enjoyed a great friendship with a number of prominent Maori, including Judge Mick Brown, Korowai, Vic Pirahi and many others. I well remember being presented with the Timana Atoy Trophy at a dinner during the 1991 Amateur Championship at Gisborne. I accepted the trophy from the Kaumatua who flew down from Auckland for the presentation. Grant Clements and I enjoyed a wonderful relationship with Vic Pirahi and the Ngāti Tamariki movement, the history of which I have kept a record. the Korowai to be presented at the New Zealand Open was, to me, another example of the great relationship between the Maori people and New Zealand golf, which was built up along with the successes of Phil Tautarangi and Michael Campbell. What occurred recently at Arrowtown was, to me, a totally reprehensible insult, and has caused me, as a life member of New Zealand golf, to feel totally betrayed. Perhaps you'd be let down, and it would be great to hear your response. Neil Woodbury.
Neil Woodbury says he's yet to receive a response from Mr Murphy, but Mr Murphy told us in an email that whilst the loan of the genuine Korowai was a generous one, his understanding was that it was returned on request some 7 or 8 years ago. It's not known if missing man Denver Chance was actually the one driving his Nissan Skyline when it was caught on CCTV on the southern motorway the day he went missing. The 43-year-old was last seen Sunday 24th of February and his bank accounts and phone haven't been used since. Police are also now questioning whether a second sighting of a similar car in Waihi is actually Denver's, after discovering there were 2 almost identical Nissans travelling on the motorway within seconds of each other. Denver's mother, Paula McGregor, told me that the family is literally searching for clues.
It's not just my family, it's many, many people. There are people from all over who have come to help search for Denver, and we are checking roadsides, we are checking where a car could possibly have gone over a bank and be hidden in the bush. We are trying to eliminate all of the routes that he could have taken. We are just trying to eliminate everything we can. He did tell me he was interested in a property in Waihi. I went to visit that property with him a year ago, and it has been on his mind a bit. So did he go there to have a look at it? And I don't know.
Let's focus on the car, because the police are still interested in sightings of his car. Now, this is the red Nissan Skyline.
Correct.
So it was seen on the southern motorway near Drury, and another sighting in Waihi. What if the police told you about who was driving the car?
They can only see one person in the car. They can't identify it as him.
So you don't even know if he was behind the wheel of the vehicle at that stage?
No. All we know is it was a person with sunglasses on.
Did he wear sunglasses normally?
Sometimes. He had a lot. He had some sunglasses that he particularly liked, but I haven't seen the picture of this to know whether. I haven't seen this picture, so I can't actually answer this question. Sorry.
Why do you think the car was heading south?
I have no idea. No idea. We were going to have. I hadn't seen Denver since he'd come back from overseas. We were going to have. He was going to come and visit me, and we were going to do a movie. And he'd rung me Sunday afternoon to say, "I'll come tonight, Mum." And I said, "Oh, love, we're going out for dinner." So after that, he said, "Oh, well, I'll come down Thursday night." And next, I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, you can still come. It's no problem. You know where the key is and everything. We won't be late." But he didn't. He said, "No, I'll come Thursday, Mum. It's cool." And that's where we left it at that. And I don't know anymore until I've heard from his flatmate the next day, asking me, had I seen Denver? And I said no, and it's just gone from there.
How did he seem in that conversation, Paula?
Fine. Perfectly fine.
And about what time of the day was that?
That was at 2:30, I believe.
So he left his flat in Mairangi Bay at about 3:30, so maybe an hour after talking to you. And what have his flatmates told you about how he seemed when he left?
Perfectly fine, just the same as always.
And what did he say about where he was off to?
I believe he said to his flatmate, just out for a bit, back soon.
Tell us a little bit more about your son. How would you describe him?
He's... How do I describe my boy? He loves his mother and his family very much. I know he wouldn't have us worrying like this. He would never do that. We're in contact all the time. He loves animals. He loves photography. He loves travel. He's always dreamt of travel, and he's into health and fitness, and he studies nutrition and things like that. He's always looking for ways to better himself. That's how I would describe my boy.
Is that one of his sisters helping you out, Paula?
Yeah, that's my daughter, Jen.
How is everybody going?
We're okay. We're trying to stay positive, and that's all we can do.
What can you tell us a bit about what he does for work? I understand he's a business person. What was he interested in? What kind of work?
He's been building up a business for the last, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. He has distributorship for an apparel, for motorbike apparel, and it's been flourishing. It's just starting to really, really take off. So as far as we know, everything, and as far as the gentleman that works for him, everything has been going amazingly.
Is there anything in his work that would lead him to travel towards Tauranga?
Not as far as I'm aware, but he's an entrepreneur. He's always looking at opportunities to get ahead. So I can't for definite say no to that as well. I don't know. I hadn't seen him we spent Christmas together in Ireland, and I hadn't seen him since then.
And that's Denver Chance's mother, Paula McGregor. And if you have any information, the police want to hear from you. You can call the special number 0800 FIND DC, 0800 FIND DC, or call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 333. That's the anonymous line, 0800 555 111. More supplies of the measles vaccine are being shipped to Canterbury as thousands of people rush to the doctors for the jab amid an outbreak of the disease. The District Health Board is warning people they could be at risk even if they've earlier had the injection. The highly contagious, potentially life-threatening disease is now circulating widely in the community. Katie Todd reports.
Since 3 cases of measles were confirmed in Rangiora and Christchurch last Tuesday, the number has jumped to 15 today and is expected to keep on climbing. The Health Board has warned 2 doses of the MMR vaccine are needed for full immunity, and people are listening. Director of the Immunisation Advisory Centre, Dr Nikki Turner, says they're having to ship more vaccine from Auckland to Canterbury to cope with the demand.
There has been increasing uptake of the vaccine, which is fantastic. The local stores, we believe, did temporarily run low or actually run out, and they are being replenished from the national stores. For them, I understand that they use the equivalent of a month's supply of vaccine within 2 days.
That's about 1,800 Canterbury residents getting vaccinated over 2 days, and Dr Turner says the uptake is a positive sign.
It's always disappointing that it takes an outbreak before people become aware of their vaccination status. But we're also really aware that you don't walk around every day wondering if you'd had all your vaccines when you were young. So this is a really useful reminder to many of us that we may have missed out on our vaccines when they were young, or we may not have got enough to protect us.
But not all those falling victim to measles are doing so because they've opted against immunisation. Ms Turner says vaccine mistrust is just one piece of the puzzle. Though none of the 15 confirmed cases were fully immunised, some are young children who could have already been up to date with their vaccinations. A health board spokesperson says they may have had the first, and most effective, of 2 recommended measles vaccinations before the age of 4, but have been too young for the second. That's led the health board to give special advice for children, Sending this letter to Canterbury kindergartens, schools and parents, read out by Andrea Teal from Rangiora First Learners Preschool and Nursery.
All children in Canterbury should bring forward their first MMR vaccination to 12 months instead of the usual 15 months. We also recommend that the second dose of MMR is given 1 month after the first month instead of waiting until 4 years old.
Ms Teal says the preschool has been doing what it can to stay measles-free, with many staff getting boosters.
So we're just taking all precautions, really, making sure all our children, what their immunisation status is, and keeping on top of cleaning and, all that kind of thing. So keeping noses wiped and...
A certain group of adults may also be at risk. Between 1969 and 1990, it was standard practice for doctors to give just one vaccination, which is now thought to provide 90 to 95% protection. The Health Board is reminding people that it's free to get a second, and if you don't know your immunisation history, there's no harm in having an extra dose. Anyone travelling overseas is urged to be up to date with the measles immunisation. In Christchurch, for Checkpoint, ko Katie Todd, TNA.
Dunedin's long-awaited bus hub will finally kick into action later this month in what authorities are describing as a game-changing overhaul of the city's public transport. But the project has been beset by delays and budget blowouts, and its construction has raised the ire of local businesses and even Dunedin's police. So will it all be worth it? Our Otago Southland reporter Timothy Brown went to find out.
Mid-2016. That's when Dunedin's Central City Bus Hub was meant to be up and running. Then it was 2017, then 2018, and now, finally, it'll open on March the 20th. But the Otago Regional Council, the organisation behind the plan, says it's better late than never.
It's all about getting more people on buses, and the hub, therefore, is a major step forward because it makes the whole system more centralised, more simple, more easy to use. You add the app to that, you add real-time information on your mobile phone to that, it's going to be a dream system.
That's Councillor Michael Deaker, himself a bus user. He, along with others in the council, fronted the media today to laud the hub's opening. They say the change will go ahead with little fuss, unlike Wellington's bus service overhaul, which caused public outcry last year. But the bus hub has faced delays and budget blowouts. $3 million was first mooted, but that number was only a placeholder, the council says. Then $4.4 million was set, and so far, $5.4 million has been spent, and the final figure isn't available. So, considering all of this, I asked the council's support service manager, Gerard Collings, can the public be as confident as he is that the rollout will be a smooth one?
I'm comfortable that staff have done everything in their power to ensure this is as smooth as possible transition to the bus hub. That said, we expect there will be some issues. We have modelled the traffic flows, but people don't always react as you expect them to.
Also looming is a revamp of the Central City's roading for the Dunedin Hospital rebuild in the coming decade. Council Chair Stephen Woodhead says, considering the uncertainty, the bus hub's location is ideal. But businesses on Great King Street, where the hub is located, aren't as positive. They've felt the pain of delays and say the hub's construction has cost tens of thousands of dollars in lost income. Smith Sports Shoes owner Greg Lapwood is pleased the street can finally reopen to shoppers.
I'm pretty disappointed about how the ORC and their contractors and designers have taken their approach to this whole project. Poor communication. They just don't really seem to care what's gone on, and they've just trucked on and spent the money, and what the hell, So
you felt railroaded by the whole process?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Look Sharp store manager Minimol Sudesh says she worries shoppers won't return, even with the street reopening, because the car parks are now gone to accommodate the bus hub.
As of now, that's the biggest fear, because there's not even like a 30 minutes parking up there at the road. So that's my fear.
Traffic can return to the whole street from Monday, and the council hopes the streamlining of the city's bus services will help increase patronage on the network, which currently transports more than 2 million passengers a year. In Dunedin, for Checkpoint, Timothy Brown.
The Tokyo-based Sunwolves are finally giving Japanese fans something to howl about after snaring their first ever away win of the Super Rugby competition last weekend, toppling the Chiefs in Hamilton. They're hunting another win against the Blues in Auckland tomorrow night. However, the Sunwolves are in danger of following their animal counterparts into extinction. Rugby reporter Joe Porter has been in Tokyo and filed this report.
Aidan Barker says that'll do. They will be celebrating in Tokyo.
They sure were, with the Sunwolves supporters bar a sea of red shirts and happy faces. The Sunwolves stunned the Chiefs last week, but up 23-3 at half-time. Even their own fans didn't want to count their chickens.
Well, I mean, if the Sunwolves won, I'd be amazingly surprised.
Nick the Kiwis' lack of belief unjustified as the Sunwolves made history, winning their first away game since their inception in 2015. But with Super Rugby's broadcast deal set to change in 2021, SANZAR are reportedly considering cutting the side. Nick says that would be a crying shame for a team that's on a roll.
I'm surprised how much supportive they are. When the Sunwolves were first in, they were losing every game. I thought, who can enjoy this? But amazing when they do well.
Nick has been living in Tokyo for a couple of years and has embraced the Sunwolves, as have many locals. Tokyo-based rugby journalist Rich Freeman says Japanese fans finally have a team that feels like their own.
Japanese rugby at the highest level is run by corporations. Now, unless you work for Panasonic or you happen to have the hots for one of the players, why are you basically going to go and support Panasonic? There is no feeling that you belong to that team. The Sunwolves, it's something that they can all rugby fans unite behind. It's a Japanese team that represents everybody in Japan.
And Rich Freeman says that feeling has led to a passion rarely seen among Japanese fans.
The crowds are great and they get behind them and you get the howling at the scrum time. You get the booing. Last weekend there were a couple of times where there was some boos and I'm sitting there going, I love it. Okay, supposedly it's disrespectful, but it shows the passion. It shows what much it means to the people.
But the continued success of the Sunwolves isn't guaranteed. The Japan national coach, Jamie Joseph, was the Sunwolves coach last year and is now the club's director of rugby, with his assistant, fellow former All Black Tony Brown, in charge this season. Joseph says the Sunwolves need access to Japan's top players at a younger age, something that's not possible under the current structure, with the best talent sent to universities where they're not allowed to play for anyone else.
If we have a professional team in Japan going forward, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to be able to have access to those players and sign them, just like at home. Develop them with coaches and they become professionals. So that's not the system here.
And Jamie Joseph says the Sunwolves are crucial to Japan's ability to compete in any future global league.
The current status quo is going to be difficult, but we can improve in the Sunwolves and we can get that sorted out properly and our players can all play Super Rugby year in, year out. Then why not?
SANZAR should take notice. They hold the key to the Sunwolves' future, and the Sunwolves are key to the future of Japanese rugby. If Super Rugby's governing body truly cares about the global game, they must keep the Sunwolves hunting. Mō te hōtaka o te ahi pōnei, ko Joe Porter aho.
And that's Checkpoint for this evening. We'll catch you again Monday.
RNZ News headlines at 6:30. A Defence Force review has found one SAS soldier's conduct in Afghanistan in 2004 was below standard, but clears the military of other claims made in a 2017 documentary. There are now 15 confirmed cases of measles in Canterbury and residents are being urged to get vaccinated twice. The Health Ministry is considering further steps in response to a study that found poorer outcomes for babies born in midwife-led care than in doctor-supervised care. And emergency services remain at the scene of a head-on crash near Tekapo, which killed 3 people and injured 5. Our next news will be at 7.